myself with the teams. I have something hopefully that makes sense that I can reference as they're playing their games. I'm doing that. I'm working with the local youth organization. We had our first coaches meeting back the end of October, which went really well. We're doing another one in November. That's been good, trying to take it from a mentor educator type position as opposed to dictating to them what they 100% should be doing, because I think that stifles every creativity a little bit in general. So that's kind of what I've been up to, and chasing the grandchildren around too.
So your role with the university team, is that sort of a scout mentor? How would you describe
it? Is color commentary. Games are broadcast.
Okay.
I've got a play-by-play partner that I work with who's really good, and I'm there doing the color analytics, I guess they call it today.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, what's up?
Hockey. I mean, we went for 3 weeks of practice, and then we had in 9 days 13 games with no practice along the way. And now we're back to occasionally practicing. We have a full ice session tonight. More so, usually we're half ice. Let me see. We got the same sort of issues in the past. We got kids leaving for 10 days over Thanksgiving to go to family reunions in Mexico, and we have a problem with coaching in a community where everybody's wealthy. They have lots of money to go do other stuff too. But
yeah, you got to be wealthy to play hockey now, eh?
Oh yeah, and then but I was a little disappointed about having all those games, but with a brand new team of kids, we found out in a hurry what we're not very good at, and so now we're focusing on. And Tom, maybe you've got some ideas, or Wally or Peter. One of the things is these kids, these are 11-year-olds, they're peewees, U12, and they don't during the games they don't chase pucks down. They delay before they go after something, and by then it's too late. And the only time they skate hard is when the puck's on their stick. And so I came up with a bunch of drills to get them to start moving faster. We also started working on body checking, even though it's not legal. Angling and keeping your feet moving and getting position. Because I've noticed games are really quite physical, but they usually end up with 3 or 4 kids in a heap on top of the puck, and because they all knock each other, bump into each other, and knock over. But I don't know, it's interesting. I haven't coached at this level for quite a while, and I've actually watched parts of 2 Bantam games, which is U14 boys, and there's very little body checking. I'm thinking, wow, I'm gonna have to go watch some more, some other teams to see if that's consistent. The play's good, but in my experience, when you get Bantams, because that's when it's now in the United States, it's now legal.
Yeah, same here.
Boy, they want a body check with total disregard of the puck sometimes, especially down below the goal line.
I heard a couple of parents talking on the weekend, and their kids had just got into the same thing.
Yeah.
And they got like 3 injuries in the first game.
Oh yeah.
It's just someone broke their wrist, and because they're just running around like you said.
Well, and they're not preparing the kids for body checking at the level below. The coaches don't really work on it. So I have a couple of videos on body checking, introduction to body checking for U12s and the 14s, and I sent the video for our group to the parents, I said, I want your sons or sons, we have two sets of twins on the team. I want them to watch it, but I want you to sit down and watch it with them to make sure that they watch it. And then we go and practice and we do those drills. And that's pretty, so that kind of elevates it, I think, to some degree. But they're scared.
Hal, can you share those? I'm sorry, Hal, can you share those videos?
Oh yeah, sure. I'll when
I'd love-
I quit talking, what should I don't know, how do I do it? You want me to just send them to Wally, or what do you want me to do, or you,
You
Tom?
can send them right on the chat.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'll do that.
Okay.
And I did these for USA Hockey a bunch of years ago. And they sit there. Of course, they don't use them anymore because they just don't do this kind of stuff, I guess. But I think it's pretty helpful.
Hal, I have to mention, I did the same thing you did when you did it for Hockey Canada.
Yeah.
And they have converted it into a checking clinic that all coaches have to take. And there's sort of a pyramid of checking, which has to do with contact confidence.
Yeah.
And then the idea of checking skills, skating skills, angling and whatnot.
Yep.
And then finally, they do get into body checking.
Yep.
So they look at the stick checks, they look at angling. It's really a great thing. The dilemma now in our time period, as the NHL demonstrates, there is no body checking anymore. To the degree that it was in our day, and it's not as dangerous in terms of affecting insurance rates, which happened in my day. But I find that, and I'm talking female hockey here, but I think it applies to your age group, male hockey.
Yeah.
And it has to do with compete confidence, getting comfortable with contact, and related to body checking. I don't like the term being used anymore. I used to say the term hitting, take it out of the vocabulary.
Right.
And now I'm saying even take out body checking, because body position to gain possession of the puck related to the body contact and use of your stick is critical. The game's changed so much. But back in the day, when there was body checking, even at earlier ages, I had got a call from an association, and it was the highest level bantam, and they wanted some work done on body checking. And the thing that got the biggest payoff for me was 3-on-3 cross ice scrimmage. But you had to finish the check. Now, this was funny. The players know each other, so there's a social camaraderie where you have to get them to be comfortable with making contact, and there's no problem. And they ended up chuckling each time somebody got knocked down, and they got comfortable with just running each other out there.
Yep.
And when I watched the game they played 3 days later, they played exceptionally well against another high-level bantam team. They were more comfortable with it because they had played with it in a cooperative, competitive fashion with their teammates. But there's tons of teaching progressions to that. And I just think getting comfortable with contact, the fastest or the biggest pay for your buck, to me, is something like that, even at younger level. And it might be, it's worth experimenting with. Hell, let me know if you try it. And, there's a line where you say, I want you to cheer when contact's made, and you can really cheer if they happen to knock the guy down, but don't be hitting from behind. And
to remove body checking from the P level and introduce it into the bantam level for the first time.
Yeah.
In this presentation,
I can hear it. How can you share your screen?
some video from the
Sorry, guys.
There's a share screen on the bottom. Can you click it and see if you can share your screen? Us old non-techies, we're getting, there it is. Now, if you click on it, does it appear? I don't think it, I saw the HTTPS, but no, I don't think you can.
While you're waiting for this, I'll just tell you a story about when Wally was running something in downtown Calgary, and we came up with we put together the body checking thing, I remember. And I went to Turku, Finland, and the Russian coach was coaching TPS, Yursinov, and he's a really good friend of my Finnish buddy. So I did the body checking that we put together in Calgary at this youth hockey thing. And then the Russian coach, he got me to do it with the pro team. So Anna Verta was out there, and Taku Koivu was about 18 years old. He was there, and so I did that body checking clinic with these pros. And I was amazed. Like I knew nothing about Finnish hockey then. So I skated onto the ice for the warm up, and I'm seeing these guys flying and throwing saucers across the ice that don't even flutter. I said, "Holy jeez, these guys are good." And so clinic with them, that was kind of neat.
Tom, I got to share a story. There's a German, Hans Kuhnackel. He's like a 6'5" German NHL player that was sort of head of the federation over there back in the day. At the time, there was a all German midget team in Calgary playing in a junior B league, which is a survival league of contact. And they were in it just to get familiar with body checking.
Oh,
And it was scary. And so we did a lot of the things Tom talked about, checking. And I can remember Eric came to the session to watch us practice, and he ended up watching one of the junior B games. And I said to him, I said, Eric, they'll be tough, but they might not be able to handle a puck anymore. It's a different game over there. But hell, I'm just running by the progressions. You know, really the biggest thing is stable balance, having a broad base, and just the coach pushing a beginning player to stand up, not get pushed over by the coach cooperatively. And that to me is huge. Now you can go player the same size, pushing side to side, and see if they can push them over and see if they stabilize, lean, broaden their base. Then we go down the blue line, one on each side, elbows joined. This is a progression, bumping each other every 3 strides. And the next progression, they got to make sure they go both ways, both arms, both shoulders. Then they unlock the elbows, and they're not in contact. Now they get to lean a little bit. And they might go around the boards at one end, 3 strides, and squeeze the boards, 3 sides, and squeeze the boards. And those are the physicality kind of things that we did, making sure they go one direction then the other. And you've all heard about the gauntlet. And I found it really works well. A power skating friend of mine, he stood the players they were not too far apart in terms of length or width, horizontally and vertically. It might have been 3 strides or maybe 2 stick lengths behind each other. And so they went on an angle to one body, and that body had to receive the shoulder contact. They took a couple strides to the next body. So it was right shoulder, left shoulder, right shoulder, left shoulder, trying to hit the stationary players down the gauntlet. And they get comfortable with that stuff. I just skipped all that stuff because, there's stages and you wonder, let's just see what they do with each other at Bantam already. They can skate, but I think at, U9, U11, they can do that cooperative stuff. I don't think I'd have them running each other cooperatively at that young an age. But those are pretty common ideas. It's just a matter of taking the time, given the library of stuff you have to cover, skating, puck control, puck handling, passing, and all of a sudden, checking. Wow. It's pretty overwhelming, but I think keeping it as simple as you can. I think they like contact. Tom, you did a drill, 1 puck, 3 players. I think that's a great drill. If the listeners, if you could describe it, Tom, I'd sure appreciate that one because there's contact, but the possession of the puck is the purpose of it.
Now, what we did is Wally had mentioned that my D does the cutbacks all the time, but my forwards, in the offensive zone, don't do much of that puck protection. So first we had a drill side to side where one player's in the corner protecting the puck and doing cutbacks while the other player just stick on the puck, defensive skating. Then on the whistle, it's live, and the player's trying to go to the net, but the other corner puck is shot in, and 2 players do that to get them used to doing the cutbacks. Then we played a game of 1 versus 1 versus 1. So the top of the circles, you dump the puck in the corner and 3 players go in and they're all trying to score against each other. So it's there's a lot of contact and, skate moves, and it's a really good battling drill. And it's, we did that at each end. So I think it's pretty effective.
I have to share this one, Peter and Hal. Sean Bauer did it this week, Tom. He took both goal nets, put them behind the goal line facing each other, about wider than the width of the crease, sort of about as wide as that no pass zone, where you could control the puck. And they played 2 versus 2 with the goalies in the net below the goal line and maybe about 30 feet apart. And there's no space. And it's all along the boards behind the goal line. And I sort of wondered, what were they getting out of it? Well, they were getting contact. What could you teach better? I think pre-contact with the player getting run is so important. So if you lean into the guy who's body checking you and you actually physically impede his speed and protect the space, it was a really good game that way. But there's all kinds of little ideas that help. And Peter, have you had anything in your toolbox?
Yeah, well, talking about kind of a bit of a variation of that. I used to do that all the time when I was coaching at prep school, did it, and also in college. And what we would do is we would have to add that, I guess you'd call that a little extra bit of competition. We would have it as a forwards versus defenseman competition. Same exact thing as you're talking about, but it really upped the level of compete and drive to win because they're playing for this probably $7 plastic WWE belt. They just couldn't wait to, at the end of that practice for either the D to hang it in one of their stalls or the forward to hang it in one of theirs. So pretty much the same exact drill, but with that competition level in there, it worked really well.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing, we've all run practices, and I think even at higher levels where they just aren't into it. And the best thing you can go is 1 versus 1 competition. And I know one time I was coaching, Tom, the team you coached, the women's team, a few former national players on it, and they were just lollygagging at the practice. So I decided just to have some 1-versus-1 short distance races and battles. And I used the blue line dot and the end zone dot as race markings. They had a starting point. They had to go to one dot, back to the other, stop facing the middle, and compete for the puck set in the middle to score. So they did stop and starts, tight turns, and transition skating. And they were battling and competing. And they, at least we got something out of them in terms of effort, stop and start skating, puck control, and battling. And it paid off. So, hell, I think the biggest thing of all is just those 1-versus-1 ideas, racing and competing, and free puck battling. Dave King used to do a drill with the national team that I've done with younger players. If you can picture this, 2 players, 2 stick lengths apart, bums against the boards, and they're 2 stick lengths apart, and you place a puck about 3 stick lengths away, exactly equidistant from each player. And now you've got them all paired up along the boards. But not yet. You just want to watch this first 1-versus-1 race on the coach's whistle to the puck. And what they will do is go straight to the puck. And that's when you teach, no, go to the lane, win the lane, and then get the puck and protect it and keep it. So it's a free puck race, gaining position, and then puck protection, small area skating, shielding kind of drill. But that was a progression we used. You increase the space to 4 stick lengths, 6 stick lengths, and the puck gets out near the dot line, and they battle. And Roger Nielsen did it one day when he was coaching Buffalo, and the winners rotated one way, and the losers the other, and it got quite competitive. He had a little $100 prize to the champion. So, but those are the little kind of things. There's that teaching element to feel confident on your skates. Make sure you're not getting your kid that's fully grown and physically mature against a little kid. Matchups where they aren't going to hurt each other. But hell, I've got to share this story. I had a midget team once, and I tried that deliberate body checking 3-on-3 cross ice. And I had a player who was too aggressive, and he just flattened guys, like literally no respect. And I sort of tested it. I didn't tell him to take a little heat off, and he didn't. And he almost hurt a guy, and I know I had to apologize to the father after, and I had to tone this guy down quite a bit. And he was one of those players, Tom, the cardinal rule of he took action penalties, but dangerous action penalties. In other words, he was the best body checker on the team, but the most dangerous. And he didn't know where the line was. And interestingly enough, he was a troubled boy. He had I believe, an alcoholic parent, outstanding hockey player, but just, I think, internally disturbed, and he carried that violence onto the ice. And I use that rule, Tom, where I talked to you the first time about taking a bad penalty, and the second time you sit a shift, third time a period. And it's the first time I've ever had to bring the parents in, the dad, to talk about it. But it toned him down enough to get through the year. up playing midget AAA, which is the highest level up here, but he quit hockey and went into roller hockey. And apparently he played on a national roller hockey team at some day. But I just wanted to share that story because, Hal, at your age, do you find you've got some kids that are just too aggressive?
Well, last year we had one or two, but they were aggressive because that's what they wanted to hurt people. That one kid did, and he took 4 or 5 major penalties till we had had to start suspending him, and then the lawsuits all started, and it got pretty contentious for a few months. But he's finally out of hockey. But I will say I did put in the chat the Bantam video. Body contact. It's on YouTube. The Pee Wee one is also on YouTube. On the angling drill, one of the things I'm always really cognizant of, especially with these young players, is as contact starts to occur along the wall, the player along the wall has to be very careful to not get their arm up right on the edge of the dasher board, because I had one get broken that way, and so that he wasn't protecting himself properly on the wall. He didn't have his hip on the wall, had his arm up, and it hit right here on his arm and cracked a bone in there. So you have to be a little careful with it. But I mean, a lot of the stuff you're talking about, Wally, is in that video, and some of it can be done off ice too, to get the kids used to bumping into each other, and so we'll do some of that. I also just sent you, Wally and the article from The Athletic about why USA Hockey has not mandated neck guards yet. And the bottom line is that there's no standards for neck guards, but they're working on it now, sort of like heck for helmets, because a lot of the neck guards really don't. I mean, CCM has one, but it really doesn't protect very much, but it makes the parents feel good. But and the suppliers have no, there's not enough supply in the system that if USA Hockey were to mandate them right now, it couldn't, they couldn't deliver them all. Wait, Tom, are you leaving?
I wonder if what I've said is if they could develop a undershirt, with the arms.
Yep.
Because my grandson just about had his bicep cut off.
Right.
From a skate. And the neck thing. So I thought if they could develop a Kevlar arms and then a turtleneck.
Yep.
Because it's a lot softer, because the players, they take the hard thing out of the ones you put on by Velcro.
Yep.
A lot of players, so the ref can't tell that they got it on, and then they got the ones with the little loop, and it only goes to about there. But I think a turtleneck would, if it was Kevlar, would protect, against the cut. And they probably cost about $100, but they're. I think they'd be much better than what's available right now.
Yeah, I agree. You can read that article, Peter. I didn't have your address, so I could shoot it down to you or something. It's just what they're doing here in the U.S. about it. If you think about it, though, fatalities have been. Well, we had this one fellow, a couple weeks ago. They had a kid at Colorado College a bunch of years ago, and I think there was another one. But if you think about how many opportunities for this to occur worldwide every day, it's more dangerous to walk across the street and than this to happen statistically. But it's also preventable, and that's the important part, that nobody should have. Same thing with the helmets on coaches during practice. Once we did that, and then USA Hockey did it, we have not had a coach die since we did that. We are losing one every 3 or 4 years, coach dying and lots of coaches injured. So it just makes sense to do it. So anyhow.
Are they all wearing helmets now, Peter and Hal? When you watch a practice?
In Minnesota?
Yeah.
Although my assistant coach won't buckle it, which is,
Yeah,
I've asked him to, but he won't do it. But I actually saw a coach get knocked down and the helmet fell off before his head hit the ice. And his head did hit the ice. And then when he came to, he crawled, literally, he crawled over to get his helmet and put it back on his head.
He do a strap up.
Yeah, I mean, it's so simple.
Yeah.
And so people are resistant to change for sure.
You know, the problem relates to influencing your coach to do the strap up. It's the same as dealing with a kid.
Yeah.
If he didn't have a strap up,
Yep.
let him off. I mean, not worth the risk. If he doesn't want to do it, find another assistant or survive without one. And boy, Tom, I have to relate this story. Al and I, it's not related to physical danger, but it's related to what I call a cardinal, which is shift lengths. And so this team is playing another team. Alan and I are watching. It's happened to be the player Tom Prodigy is on the team. And he's a very small player centering two pretty good sized players. And the wingers are pretty one-on-one players, big, strong, hard-working players. They really don't know how to play make, and the playmaker is the little guy. And they stayed out. This little guy that Al's trained, he's out 30 seconds and he's off. He's absolutely mastered the art of shift length. So they got scored on. And it was about, he had changed already. They got scored on. The shift was about a minute length. And I'm sitting there thinking they should have changed. And they didn't. These two big guys stayed on. The other center came out. They got scored on again. And I said to Al, that's on the coach. Totally. I mean, he could have called the change. It was a minute at least. The young fellow that changes in 30 seconds is the smartest player on the team. He does it the right way. And these guys had a chance to change themselves at the right time and didn't. And then when there was a whistle, the coach left those players out there. And I think it's on us as adults, whether it's your players, your staff, to hold each other accountable, especially when, lives are at stake, health is at stake. But when you're trying to teach respect and doing things the right way and build a team, I think that's the most important thing of all. I call it behavioral coaching. If you don't coach behavior, you're useless. You're building a culture of a very unhealthy culture that will never win. Hal, go ahead.
So your advice, boys. We had a 6 a.m. practice yesterday morning, and two boys who were twins did not show up. And I'm told they never show up for 6 a.m. practices. We don't have them very often. Those same kids are going to miss 5 practices over Thanksgiving when they're in Mexico. And we have another set of twins, and they'll be gone for 4 days over Thanksgiving. And we'll miss 2 or 3 practices. So then the issue is, well, these are unexcused absences. And our code of conduct says then there should be consequences. So I'm going, okay. So what is the consequence? Do we bag skate them in practice? But the problem is it's not really their fault. It's their parents' fault.
Yeah.
And then if
they need the ride, eh?
yeah, and then one of the goalies didn't go to the goalie clinic because he says my dad didn't know about it. Well, okay, and then you get into this thing. Well, if we sit them out during games, then I'm punishing the entire team, and that's not fair either. And I don't, and I've already, we've tried to put something out to the parents to say there will be consequences if you have unexcused absences, examples, I have to go to grandma's birthday party in Florida. I have tickets for the Wild game. I need to go. I have, there's just this endless number of other things where they will miss. And I just thinking, it's so hard with only, we have 3 lines, but hard to run a practice with, with 2/3 of a team. And we only have 4 defensemen, and one of the kids is a defenseman that will be missing. I'm just going, what the heck? Peter has an idea.
Go ahead, Peter.
I do. What degree, like, what's your dynamic of your as far as the kids all getting along and liking each other, all that. Where are you at with that?
Oh, they're good. The dynamics on this group are pretty good. Yeah.
So what about posing the question to them as a group, as they're older, right? Because you said these are Bantams.
No, these are peewees. They're 11 and 12.
Okay, so they're 11 and 12, so they're old enough to understand right and wrong and consequences and all that. So what about having an open discussion amongst your team? Hey, here's the situation that's happening. Like, I know it's not your guys' fault. However, this is the team rule, and like you just said, it's hard for us to run practices when people don't show up. What do you think if consequences should be? Now, if you can come up with something from your group like that, it's way more effective than if you decide to make a rule, because you're going to get some parent who's going to be saying, hey, you know what, this isn't right, and et cetera, et cetera. But when you can say, listen, the team came up with this rule, these consequences, however you want to word it. I didn't come up with it. I supported them. I support them because they're my team, but they had an open discussion. They talked about it, and this is what came up with. If nothing else, it's probably a really interesting conversation for them to begin to see things like what you have to actually deal with as a coach, because they never see any of that. So I think that could be a great conversation, if nothing else, and hopefully you could get something out of it too.
That's a great idea. I appreciate it.
Peter, I got, just as you spoke, I had a question. And I never thought of this before, but if the kids' parents aren't taking them, and in that discussion, it's sort of a habit. And if you do talk to your players about that, how receptive would they be to the parent that are coming that live close enough by will pick up that kid, and they can look after each other.
Yep.
And I think consequences are reaction. So I think it's so important we're educating the parents here.
Yeah.
You're teaching life skills, respect, responsibility. And I think it's more important to have your players talk about that and seeing if they can help one another out as a group of parents and players to get there on time.
Yep.
The holidays things, Hal, I don't touch. I think it's family time, and that's part of life skills and part of recognition. And you have to live without it and adapt your practice to what you've got.
Yep.
If they call themselves an elite team and they're taking holidays carelessly, it's not really an elite program.
Well, you're right. Ironically, the one of the parents for the team schedules all the tournaments for the association and intentionally did not schedule our team for when they want to take their family out of town. But of course, then practice, that's when our practice ice is.
Yeah.
And so it's like, whatever. I mean, it's like.
Yeah, it's interesting, right, Wally? Because to your point about the elite team, back when I was coaching gunnery, we used to be in this at New Year's, and there was another program that was in this, and they had one, I think it was one, maybe two kids on that team who not my team, but another team that were like legit good, probably potential Division I players, who in all 4 years that they attended that prep school never went to that tournament because they went to the islands for their vacation. That's just what they did. Like, they knew that this was important, but they made, like you said, it's a family choice that they made. Certainly frustrating for a coach. Certainly frustrating for a recruiter if you're waiting to see him play in this tournament, which had changed, and the kid's getting a suntan somewhere. So it's hard.
I think Tom's story for coaching U13, Tom, you were having 10 players at practice, and it
was exactly the same thing.
Yep. U13, it's the first time they had AA U13 girls teams, 2 teams in the association, and they call themselves an elite association. So Tom, you can describe that and how you eventually turned it around, and go ahead, Tom.
Well, it was getting frustrating for Jim and I, because how can you do 5 players missing? How can you do any team play? This kind of stuff. And it was becoming not really fun. And the team was about 50-50. And we mentioned it to the parents, but Wally did this, the mission statement. And that was part of the deal, as the parents realizing that, we're committing our time. Like every year they schedule all our practice Tuesday, Thursday, and I have seasons tickets, and those are the nights the Flames play. So I missed a game the other night again. They could do it Monday, Wednesday, but anyway, they do. That's another thing. But so after that mission statement, they started showing up at practice all the time, and then we basically lost about 2 games the rest of the year, and we won 2 tournaments. But you can't really do anything with the only part of your team there.
Right.
Plus, there's no commitment either, right? There's not really a team.
Right.
See, Tom, I never equated the mission statement exercise with that. I thought I know you had told me that you were so discouraged that you were going to last the year, but you wouldn't coach at that level again.
Yeah, well, but I think it came up in the mission statement too.
Yeah.
Because we talked to a few people and said, look, this is just a lot of fun.
See, for Peter and Hal, in the mission statement exercise with elite, I begin with writing the outcomes down. What do you want to achieve this year? Do you want to win a championship? Do you want to get drafted? Do you want to get a scholarship? And I start with that column. And I say, if you're elite, then this is why you're playing elite. If not, you're playing community. You still have to be responsible and be the best you can be. But if you're elite, you're sacrificing other team sports, possibly. You're sacrificing holidays. if you really are elite. And I began with that, talking about if we're elite, it's commitment to the cause. And then I continue with the exercise in terms of, well, how do you win a championship? What do you have to do when it gets down to the two words, effort and respect? So the life skills, the values of hard work, teamwork, they tie into the process of becoming a champion. And you might not win, but you're going to be a heck of a great person and player for that. So I think that exercise, Hal, is, you have to decide. You call yourself an elite. Is it really elite, or is it just, they call themselves elite, but they're not and don't care? And you have to draw the line. You're the head coach. And
Yeah,
I'm just saying, when you're looking at ideas, I never tied the mission statement exercise into it, but how good do they want to be? Because I know years ago, my granddaughter was playing soccer at a U16 level, and it was elite soccer. It was the second division level of play in the association. And during playoffs, the family took a holiday. And my daughter was really upset because she understands, well, oh my God, what are you doing? It's not really elite. Now, as it happens, my granddaughter got a scholarship and is playing and got field time. The other girl, who in question did not participate, wasn't responsible, that took the holiday, got a scholarship but was cut from the team later this year. And I talked to the parents before that. I think the commitment from the parents is the starting point.
yep.
And kids have got parents, and they've got to, they're walking a fine line. And if the parents have at all been involved in elite sports and they know about that, I think they're knowing at this level you're sacrificing those things.
Well, it's like today we practice at 4:00 at Crowchild, and parents have to leave work early because none of these kids can drive yet, right? They're 13, 14.
Yeah.
They leave work early, go to, a lot of them live at the other end of the city. And this is one of the largest land area cities in the world. It's quite a drive. So if the parents don't have a commitment, like they really have to go out of their way to get their kids to practice for sure.
I think it's hard, at least down here, because, we have A teams, which would be our top level team in our program. Some programs have double A teams, so they compete at a level higher. But, and then we have B teams and C teams and B1 teams. And we had the president of the association last year who had a kid on the team, and his kid went to the Bahamas over the holidays and missed 2 tournaments. And he said, well, my son's never going to play professional hockey, so why does it matter? And he was the president of the program. So the solution is you have to either put up with it or you have to go work for a different program where, they do care. And then you have to make sure that, your commitment lines up with the commitments of the players and the parents. And that's hard in community-based hockey. AAA hockey and club hockey, it is very different. And, but we don't have very much of that here because they can't get ice time. So.
Yeah. And Hal, we run the same thing here. You see that a lot down in Connecticut because the organization I'm working with, the rinks are about, they practice at 2 different rinks. They're about 20 minutes apart, but it might as well be 200 miles apart sometimes, right? far as the parents just, well, you know what, we're not going to drive down because that's down Route 8 South, too many miles. Just, we're not going to do that. Then you have the other parents who will do anything to get their kids to a practice. So unfortunately, you're thinking, not really unfortunately, I guess, just the reality of the situation in community-based hockey. Kids playing for several different reasons, not like elite. They're all at least supposed to be focused on their eye on the prize, so to speak. Maybe being hopefully someday playing professionally, getting a collegiate scholarship. But when you get to the community base, I would argue that it's probably more difficult to coach because of many, many more moving parts socially
Yep,
than you have and culturally than you have at the higher levels.
yep, I agree. So,
Peter, I think the important thing here at community, as in elite, is responsibility of communication.
yep,
Okay, letting you know early enough that they've got a holiday. At community level, just communicate. If you're going to be late and have a legitimate reason, let us know. We're trying to teach the life skill of thinking of the workplace, of letting people know if you're on time or going to be away. And I think however you massage that, handle that, deal with that is so important at the community level. Just as important as it is at the elite level.
I
Because
mean, that's a great opportunity to teach for sure. Back when I a community a sport team, and my wife used to teach me because I made the rule with the kids that if you're not going to be at practice, you have to call me.
Yeah.
And I don't want mom or dad to call me. You have to call me because I felt like it would help them begin able to communicate with, somebody who is quote unquote in a position of authority. But we developed that trust, and my wife would answer the phone and she'd hand it to me and she would just say, Disney's calling, because she thought they all sounded like they were like Mickey and Minnie Mouse with that age. But it was really good. The kids would do that. And surprise to me, one day for our games, they all showed up in shirts and ties. Community hockey, right? These are 9-year-old kids. What's with this? And they said, well, we just thought that this is something we should do. They came up with that completely on their own. So
cool. Good for the
there's a lot
kids.
of accomplishments you can make. And then when things work, it's fun, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I've got an old school example, U13 hockey. One of our coaches who played years in the NHL, and as Tom pointed out to me the other day, he was MVP in the Memorial Cup back in his day, coaching U13 girls. His daughter's on the team. And I'm going to watch the practice, which is 5:30, easy drive, no excuse for being late. And I arrive at the practice late myself just to watch. And they're doing a bag skate that they've been doing for 10 minutes.
Okay.
And they did it for another 10 minutes. 12-year-old girls.
Oh, geez.
And here's what happened. His daughter, who is the most talkative one on the team, 4 of them were late coming out on the ice to start their practice. And he lined them all up and he attended to it. And let me tell you, I was up there with the parents and they were smiling. And his daughter was at the forefront. She's the social butterfly of the team. And he held them accountable. And he does that consistently. He does not deviate from his philosophy and his standards of expectation with those girls. And as Tom knows, inheriting quite a few of those girls on the U13 team from his when they played for him at U11. And I don't know how many of them, Tom, have been coached by him on this year's team, but your team, it has effort and respect. Not all the teams that I watch put in that kind of effort. And if you don't put in the effort, you're not really respecting the importance of effort and the team.
Well, on Sunday, got to the rink and my players are watching a game in the other rink. And then about 4 of them walked out 3 minutes late. So say I didn't skate them for 20 minutes, but they did 3 over and backs. So then on Tuesday we had a practice. 5 minutes before practice, the whole team was sitting there waiting for the Zamboni to get off.
Yeah.
So I don't think you have to go 20 minutes, but you got to make your point.
Yeah, what we used to do, and this is at every level, even going back to the little kids there, was for every minute that the last player is on the ice past the starting time, that's how long we skated for. So if you were 4 minutes late, we skated for 4 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever it would be. And you'd be surprised when you're getting within like 3 minutes of being on the ice, players looking around, jumping off the ice, running into the locker room to go get the kids and get them to come out because they don't want to skate.
Well, that's what I did in phys ed. I gave them a certain amount of time to be out there. And
so
then
in other words, so like if practice starts at 10 a.m., we'll say, or whatever, you got to be on by 10 a.m. If the last player doesn't get out till 10:05, we're going to skate for 5 minutes to start practice. And it worked pretty well. It worked pretty well. They self-policed each other, took responsibility. So it was like a little thing you can do, but it was kind of fun to see them care. That was good.
I've got 2 related stories.
Special situation this year is we got one player is also an elite short track speed skater. And she's training like crazy for that. And there's a competition this weekend that she has to go to because, they get ranked in the country. Kind of made a deal that just let me know beforehand because I don't want her to quit one of them because she thought she had to quit one of them or the other one, So I just said, well, just let me know and we can work around it. So she'll be gone for the speed skating competition. So she'll miss a Saturday practice and the Sunday game.
But that's great. You're doing that. You're working because similarly, I used to coach something called Connecticut, which at that time was at 12-year-olds, and best players they get together for this weekend, go different state, and they pick for another team. And there was one town that always had lacrosse tryouts on the Sunday when most games were being played. And the kids were scared to death that was going to affect the held against them because they said the lacrosse association told us if you don't show up for the tryout, you're not making any team. So the opportunity to you mentoring them, saying, you know what, it's going to be okay. We can work this out because this thing called life is a real thing. I can work with you. I think that's great. And when you be the one, they'll remember that for a long time that you were the individual who said, you know what, I'm going to think about staying here. I respect who you are, what you're trying to accomplish. That's a lot you're trying to accomplish at your age. So how can I help? So I think that's great.
I've got a story, Hal, related to my early years of U15 Bantam hockey. I had a lot of kids are playing, families have 2 kids playing sports. And this kid came late to the game. I sat him for the period. And his dad came up to me after and he said, Wally, I said, I've got another son playing hockey. I got him here as fast as I could. Do you think you could have him do push-ups instead? And that was a wake-up call for me.
Yeah.
Of course. Why didn't I think of that? Like, we don't realize how these parents are going all over heck to give their kids a sporting experience.
Right.
And shame on me
We
for
got
not.
families with 5 and 6 kids playing hockey.
Yeah, and that's happening. Like, I spend all my time with the parents watching games now. Oh my God, their schedules.
Crazy.
Fathers are this way, the mothers are this way, and the families share drive together. They're doing all this communication behind the scenes because the bottom line is they want a positive experience for their kids.
Yep.
And we're entrusted with that. And holidays, families, multiple kids playing multiple sports. Boy, it's a balancing act. It's a juggling act. And I think we have to be flexible. And the only thing that we need to do is teach communication, letting people know, being responsible about it, letting Tom know that she's got a speed skating competition. He's got time to get an affiliate up, and things move on.
Yep.
But
You're 100% right, Wally.
yeah.
Hey, guys, I got to run.
Okay, Hal.
It's always great to visit with you. Hope you like the video. And hopefully we'll catch up with you next week.
What color is your hair in the video?
I think I have a helmet on.
Oh, okay.
Well, no, but it's not white.
Okay.
We'll see you guys. Take care.
All
Yeah.
right. Now, Tom, Kerry
kind of-
Bracco, he had a rule. He noticed kids were coming, early practice, they'd be late. And so he started to have them play shinny. And once he started playing shinny, if he got there, it was shinny.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, nobody was late. They were all out there wanting to play shinny. He said he would let that shinny go for 15 to 30 minutes. And they changed themselves. But there's different ways of figuring it out. And I think, Peter, like you said, I think we just have to experiment with the possibilities, and your discussion with the players about what should we do, what you think consequences are, how can we work together to be proactive in preventing lateness, helping each other out and get there on time, or that's really more important than what you do at practice.
No, I agree. I really think it's not just because we're talking about this as a group, but the up and coming coaches, the younger individuals that are coaching at the community level, maybe even at the elite level, they play some college hockey. Really understanding what coaching is, because we can certainly talk about the X's and O's piece of it, which is what I think most guys who have played that are young are probably more comfortable talking about. But really talking about the other aspects, like we've been discussing this morning, about this is really what coaching is. It's really that people management, right? I mean, even all the way up, I think, to the pro level. If you got, 26 guys on your roster, you've got 26 different personalities, 26 different agendas, and you're trying to manage all of that. And it's your ability to manage it, even beginning at the youngest ages, is where you learn how to do all that. So I think it would be great to, I'm not sure how we would do it, to get more younger up and coming coaches listening to this, not from a standpoint of, hey, we're going to tell you what to do, but I think some of them probably deep down probably have a gut feeling of this is what I should do. And when you can offer some sort of support, it helps you to get better and to kind of take that leap into the things we've been talking about.
Yeah, it's in almost everything, you gotta realize life isn't just a black and white issue. There's all kinds.
100%. right? In
reason
your
for things, right?
life, yeah, your personal life, your business life, certainly in athletics, but whatever it may be, right? It's, again, I say that's why if you go to the parking lot, there's not black and white Chevrolets in the parking lot. There's every color car, every brand of car you can imagine, because everybody's got a little different take, and it's trying to get everybody on that same page when it comes to athletics or in the world of business. That, these are great opportunity for some good lessons.
Well, one of the things I've discovered this year with this exercise, Tom, is the parents. They're up front, and I've got an appreciation for them I never had before. And I believe that in my role and being as experienced and aged as I look, there is a degree of respect with the experiences that I've been through, that we've all been through. So when I watch games with them, we not only talk the games, we talk about, what are they doing with their other kids? How are they managing everything? And I've got a newfound appreciation that I bring to the coaches as I mentor them. And that's mentoring, just saying, boy, I talked to so-and-so, they've got 2 kids playing hockey. They're all over heck here. And we're working together with their kids. And I think I use this symbolic banging of the fist, the conflict that occurs with parents and coaches, and with the exercise, it becomes an interlocking of fingers. We have the same mission to serve those kids in the best way we can, to be the best they can be. And the score clock can distract coaches, and it can distract some parents. But all of the things we're talking about, the lessons of life that we're teaching, responsibility, accountability, the importance of effort, that's what we're there for, number uno. And if you do that right, your chances for a more positive experience and a successful experience exponentially increase. So hopefully we can take something out of this this time here.
So our practice last week, the lady that does all the stats, she dropped her daughter off. Then she had at Henry Viney and had to get to Winsport to drop her son off. So they're zipping all over the place. I'm just planning my practice right now, and I'm going to do that. The Thomas in the middle with 3 forwards, and then dump it in each end and break out.
Yeah.
I'm just looking for the listing of it.
Well, that's something I'm hoping all the youth 15 teams can play with, because it's so game-like. I just find that there's a lot of great deliberate practice going on.
Yeah.
But Tom, your ability to do regroups in a decision-making, progressive manner, and breakouts in a where decision-making is involved. It's not, it's scripted. It's not go here, pass here, pass here.
Well, the game is such a random game, eh?
Yeah.
So it can't be just. But this is a great. I'll just describe the drill as the D's are. The players come and regroup with their own D from the blue line, and then they get the breakout pass. Then they pass to the other D and forecheck them. And this is from a Czech coach, the Thomas Pacina, so we call it the Thomas. And they get the pass and goes back and forth, and the D's go D to D or double D to D. And then I want the players to all touch the puck in the neutral zone before they pass to the D. And then we put it that you don't pass to the other D, you dump it in and forecheck, like don't, forecheck fairly hard, but so that they have to make decisions where to pass the puck. And it just goes end to end. And it's just a terrific way for players to, regroups and breakouts and all this kind of stuff. and it just flows. There's no whistles. It just goes. And it's just a terrific drill. He lived with Haley Wickenheiser for a long time, and that he had a kid, and Haley adopted his kid. He's back in Czechia right now, but he coached our women's pro team, the Inferno, that won, a couple of years ago before Calgary lost their team there. But he also, I think he worked with Florida too and stuff like that. But he's really innovative kind of a guy.
He's working with the Maple Leafs now, their draft picks in Europe.
Okay.
And he watches them play wherever they're playing in Europe. He comes into Toronto, I think 2 weeks at a time, every 2 months. Spends time talking to the staffs about their players that he's in charge of that have been drafted. I hope he gets continue to keep his role given what Toronto's going through. But Thomas coached with me at the Olympic Oval with the national team prospects years ago, and both he and I, after 2002, had a coach exchange. We went to the Czech Republic back in the day, spent 10 days with a club team. In return for that, a coach came over here and ran a 2-week clinic, goaltending / scoring clinic. It was Yuri Kralik who played in goaltending, starting goaltender in 3 Olympics. Dominic Hasek was his backup. So quite a, the educational background of the European coaches, like in the Czech Republic, you get a doctorate in coaching at St. Charles University, and they're sports specific. So the most forward thinking, whether it's sports psychology, coaching education, the Czech Republic has been sort of one of the marquee countries in the world for educating coaches. And in the 1960s, they had Dr. Charles Vanek was the sports psychologist. He took students to the Mexico Olympics, and they had the students observe athlete behaviors and coping with stress, and came up with a refocusing strategy based on observing behaviors. It was amazing, and I've used it to this day. A visualization, yoga breathing kind of exercise to help players recognize when they're stressed and to try to get themselves in a performance state. But that particular drill, Thomas worked with Montreal, Florida, Pittsburgh, and that drill became the first drill that most of those teams start with. It's a regroup drill while the goalies are getting warmed up. It's not the breakout drill. It's just continuous regroup with varying degrees of pressure. So it's one of the staples for me.
And it's so great because it's realistic passing too, right?
Yeah.
Game like passing. It's just not pass to this player
Yeah.
because they have to open because they have to get into a lane because there's forecheckers coming at the D.
Yeah. Yeah, they're learning to read and act. Peter, to what degree have you toyed with the idea of deliberate practice versus game-like practice? And by game-like, I don't mean small area games. I mean this regroup drill. It's just having a drill where thinking's involved, not passing at specific points, predictable, with no thinking.
Well, I mean, with me, I mean, the only thing I would always separate out is typically we would do one day. Mondays would be a skill day for a practice because we typically play Friday, Saturday, the boys Sunday off because NCAA says you can't go 7 days in a row, so you have to have that day off in between. And then to kind of get them back into it, Monday would be a skills day. And then Tuesday would be a competition day where the drills were set up, whatever they were, small area games, even if there was some flow drills, there would be definitely a complete level to that. And then Wednesdays would be more of a flow day. And then Thursday would be our prep day because we'll be playing that Friday. So it would just be going over a lot of the basics. And Wednesday and Thursday we would dip into the power play, penalty kill a little bit more, just because it's was such a big part of the NCAA game. They really seem to call. Some officials seem to call absolutely everything. Some of the games I've been watching this year, there was one game that I watched where one team had 9 minutes of a consecutive power play, varying between a 5-on-4 and a 5-on-3. So that's kind of how that's for me. That's how it would go when I was coaching collegiately.
Peter, what level of college hockey is that? University hockey?
So that's NCAA Division II, which is really competition-wise, Wally. It's really pretty similar to Division III. The difference with Division II sports, hockey's kind of a unique bit of a unicorn in the States as far as the Division II piece goes, because years ago, many teams like Bentley, Merrimack, and I'm not sure which one of the Minnesota teams, I think, was also Division II. AIC was Division II school, and they elevated their hockey programs to Division I. So that left a certain group of schools that were Division II that still have hockey. Here in New England, there's only 6 Division II schools that actually have hockey, men's, and there's a mix of some of the schools have women's. I think all but one of them does, and that was really set up so that you still have the academic piece, right? You have the clearinghouse like you do in Division I. So honestly, it's a bit of a tougher recruit because there's the academic piece in the recruiting process to make the kids eligible that you go through. But as far as the level goes, Division II men's ice hockey is pretty similar to Division III, because the other Division II sports all have scholarships, which Division II hockey does not for the men.
Now, are there scholarships at that level?
There's no scholarship. So apparently, this is years ago. 1999 was the last national Division II championship when they had enough teams so that they could do that. And I guess one of the rules that they made, I think it's more a gentleman's agreement, so to speak, than an actual NCAA rule, that in order to have like what they would consider fair competition, Division II men's hockey programs acquiesce to, we won't offer scholarships because Division III doesn't offer scholarships. We'll all offer the same financial aid as you, which would mean, I think, you would get the similar talent pool that everyone is picking from, and that would make the competition more fair, if you will, because you couldn't really compete with the Division I schools who gave scholarships. So men's hockey does not have it. Curious, I think I'm right with this. If I'm wrong, I'm sure somebody will correct me somewhere, but the only NCAA sport that does not play for a national, have the opportunity to play for a national championship is a men's Division II ice hockey. There's a league championship, and that's it. Just because there's not enough teams to be able to compete for a national championship. I think you need a minimum of 40 teams at your level in order for it to be a national championship. So it's an interesting recruit. It's great. It was a lot of fun, but there are definitely some little bumps in the road there, not offered to the other two levels.
I've always thought that, and I just generalizing here, the Division III schools that I know a lot of players, Tom, in Calgary are going to Division III schools.
Yeah,
And
grandson's friends are playing all over the
Yeah.
states. He chose to go to Nanaimo instead.
but the Division III schools that I've heard of, and I don't know them all, but the academic programs are excellent. And
Yeah, there's a group of NESCAC schools, it's called, which is like Hamilton, Trinity. You can look them up, Wesleyan. There's a whole group of those, Williams, that are really high end academically. Others too, but that's what pops in my head right away.
And I'm just trying to say, what would it cost a family to have an athlete go to one of those schools, given aid? How much aid, or how much would they be forking out?
Yeah, well, I mean, speaking from when I was back in admissions, back when I was in prep school, everything is supposed to be need based. So it's right. The process is pretty is pretty involved with tax returns from at least the prior year, if not the first two prior years, and then your assets you have to list. If you own a vacation home, if you've got 3 Mercedes, 2 boats, all that stuff gets factored into it. So that's the need based. Then above that, there are grants for, again, academics is still the best way to get some form of financial help, because the academic grants are simply based on your high school transcripts and what you were able to accomplish at that level. Doesn't matter if your parents have very wealthy life situations. That individual still will qualify regardless of that.
Yeah.
So if you're more middle class and you qualify for some financial aid, and you've been doing due diligence and become a very good student, you can probably knock, in some cases, a third, maybe more, off tuition.
You use the term middle class. Tom, I'm thinking, the girls on your team, the families, I'm imagining that most of them could afford to send their kids to school. In Canada, we have colleges with great programs, and they do offer some scholarships. Tom, at SAIT, which is a technological institute, great 2-year employment type programs
We
going
got a
to,
lot of 4 years now. It used to be just 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Now there's degrees in business and that.
but what would be the scholarship? Like, they were on scholarships there, hockey scholarships, correct?
Yeah. Well, the deal is that every kid in Canada, if you go to like SAIT or University of Calgary, every kid in Canada has already got about a 70% scholarship, because the government is paying a lot of the tuition. So the cost is so much lower. Like, I had a couple of girls from Japan, and they had to pay 3 times more for their tuition. And we had a deal with them. They got some money, but so it would cost a kid about 8,000 Canadian, between 5 and 8,000 Canadian for the year. And I could give them about half of that in a scholarship. So, it was pretty reasonable. And if they were a top scorer, maybe they'd get it all, but they all got some money anyway. But it isn't school isn't that expensive in Canada for a Canadian citizen compared to other places, you know, that if they were out of country, it's really expensive.
Tom, there's a lot of players that you've coached in midget double A that are taking scholarships and playing in the States.
Yeah.
And I've often wondered how they could afford to do that, because the cost of education, and it varies, is much
Well,
higher than here.
Get the academic, and they can get that, you know, based on the family's income and all this.
Yeah.
And some places will give in-state fees if you're playing on a team. Not all, but some will do that. But it is pretty expensive. So I think the family has to have a lot of money before they can send their kid down there.
Yeah,
I'm not-
I mean, really too, in the States is, you know, it's not an inexpensive sport, right? I mean, ice time now, I think in one of the rinks at the organization I work with, is $500 an hour.
Yeah.
So unfortunately,
That's 2 or 3 times more expensive than ours.
yeah, it puts a certain group out regardless of their ability to play. And there are some organizations that will work with kids and families and give them, help them as best they can. But I mean, the reality is down here in the States, it's not a inexpensive sport to play.
No, and I like the team I'm coaching. The start, like right at the start, there is $4,500, and then they have cash calls for. I think they've already had one for 1,500 or something, because we went to a tournament for 5 days, and they're doing a lot of money raising too. Like they're selling. Yeah, they had a bottle drive, and they're doing something else with tickets and all this. I don't have much to do with that, but you know, some money raising. But you know, really, I have 2 daughters that there's no way in the world. Like I had one daughter's kid went all through that, but 2 daughters, no way in the world they could afford their kid to play at this level of hockey.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the AAA hockey here at younger levels is close to, if not over twice what you just quoted.
Yeah.
And that's American.
Yeah.
Well, we all paid in our own currency, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, like it's a lot different than my dad used to pay $10 a year for a community membership. And that was all the kids. And you play on a team, they'd give you a jersey. And you play outside all the time, so the rink cost was $0. And nothing even close to that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, and the youth organization, the one I'm working with, is pretty good at keeping, I mean, relatively speaking, keeping costs down. I think every team that you try out for, or if you're playing on, I should say, is less $2,000 or less, or under $2,000. So they do a fairly good job of managing that. There's an endowment that they have, and they do a pretty good job of trying to make that as affordable as possible, because I mean, it's a recreational excuse me, it's a recreational league, and that we want to teach all those other things that you talked about. Now, if you go back, I can go back in my head a little over 30 years ago, and in those 30 years, there's been 5 to counting boys and girls, has been between 5 and 8 players that ever played in college at the NCAA level, club level, a lot of them, but at the NCAA level, I think probably 8, maybe, yeah, probably about 8 of them overall. So the importance of the youth team teaching all those other aspects is paramount, because it's just the nature of the sport. I mean, you're probably not going to play pro, and probably not going to play the NCAA, but it also can be some of the best years of your life if you approach it the right way. And
Yeah.
if those happen, they happen.
In Calgary, what happens, we've got about, I think there was 13,000 kids played in minor hockey week last year. And that's more the community level. So the city's divided into, like, I live in the Trails West area. So every kid that lives in this area has to play for Trails West. Then they have kids at every age group, and they're tiered. There's Division 1, Division 2, Division 3. You know, they go to tryouts and get played on these teams, you know, put on these teams. So, and then what happens in the boys hockey, like girls is different, but the boys hockey, the city's divided into 4 quadrants. And that's the AA and AAA. So you have to play in the quadrant that you live in. And on the AAA level, if you don't make the team, I think the rule is you're allowed to try out for one other quadrant. But the girls the girls are all under this Girls Hockey Calgary, and the players come from all over the city. I get, you know, players from everywhere, and there's 3 teams in the bantam age. So the girls is quite different. It's all over the place. But
yeah, the AAA here is you can play anywhere, anytime. In 4 years, you can be playing for 4 different organizations, and you know that gets hard because rather than trying to learn some of those values and focusing on that, the focus becomes on the prize, right? The college scholarship. So this year I'm going to play for Peter because that team is really good. And then it looks like a bunch of kids, Tom's going to really have the team next year. So I'm going to leave and go to that organization. And then that next year, Wally, looks like Wally's really got the guys that are going to get the scholarships. That seems to be where everybody's going. So now they're all going to try to jump over there. So it's almost like, in some ways, like the pros, right? You're rotating around, you're trading yourself rather than somebody else trading you in an effort to get in the best situation.
Our summer and spring hockey is just like that. It's just a free for all. And then there's also this breakaway league, and they call it the elite hockey. So the parents have established this league that they classify themselves as kind of right next to the NHL. One team was playing a game before our practice, and these are 12-year-olds, eh? They had a skate sharpener and those the glove dryers.
Yeah.
At the dressing room.
Well,
this 12-year-old kids.
It took me 2 years to get those when I was coaching in college.
Yeah. But and they've broken away, and then of course the BC Junior League broke away from Hockey Canada because they wanted to be like the USHL and be able to recruit whoever.
Yeah, I saw that.
Now that they're not allowed to play on any national teams or anything like this.
Is there an update on that? How was that experiment going?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, this is the first year that they kind of are totally on their own. Like, I think Hal recruits for trail, and they can have, players from everywhere. And so now they're calling the KIHL, Kootenay International Hockey League, now is classified as Junior A, not Junior B, in British Columbia. So this is the first year they've kind of separated like this. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because they're having trouble with refereeing too. Like, my grandson plays on the Vancouver Island, and apparently the BC Junior League got all the elite referees. So they're having trouble getting good referees because they must be paying these guys pretty good or something, to ref in that league. So it's kind of,
I guess that comes with living in a democracy.
yeah.
Well, that's it.
Yeah. Well, listen, guys, I didn't have anything planned, but I called Alan Andrews, and I'm thinking of a future session. Peter Allen worked with Crosby and McKinnon when they were children, and for 40, I think it's 48 years now, his program's been running. His son runs it now in Prince Edward Island.
Yeah, I was gonna
And,
say he's up in PEI because I ran across him at one point. I used to go up there when I was coaching prep school to recruit. I'm not sure if he did it with him or not, but there was a fellow up there, Doug Shepard.
Yes,
was
I
up
know
there.
Doug well. He's in Massachusetts now.
Yeah, and Doug would run some things, so we'd go up there for that. And I still remember driving across the longest bridge I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah,
Uh,
15
that thing
miles.
is incredible.
But
Well, I'll tell you a story about, my wife and I went to Charlottetown to PEI for a holiday. So there's a rink there, and I said, I wouldn't mind just looking inside inside the rink and see what's going on. So I'm walking down the hallway and I see this guy. Is that Wally? And I ran into Wally in Charlottetown, PEI.
It's a small world.
well, I think I'm gonna try to get Alan on next week, and my idea of these sessions, they're just random, off the cuff. But with Alan, I would like to get him to talk about, drop a name like Crosby, McKinnon, and talk about them as children and how they were in their programs, what separated them from others and their families. And then he has this prodigy now, Tom, that is at Winsport. So if you get a chance to see him play, Tom, it would be worth it just to see this kid's hockey IQ and skating and puck skills. They're off the chart. And I'm just curious about 4 years ago, I edited a video of him as a 9-year-old or a 10, 11, playing 10, 11-year-old hockey. This would be longer than 4 years ago. And in one shift, in my scouting system, I put a check mark for everything positive that catches my attention. In one shift alone, he had about 11 positives. And when
I've seen that video.
when I scouted college, if a player had 11, that was high for the whole game. So yesterday was similar. I watched his first shift, and I wasn't tracking it that close, but I had about 4 wows in the shift he played in, and there was at least 1 wow in every shift. And they were subtle wows. They were. You need a good hockey IQ. He made touch passes that teammates weren't ready for. He was available for passes that he couldn't get from teammates. But he just an exceptional little player. And at 100 pounds, he finished more checks than anybody on his team. And I don't mean random. He made just enough contact to gain the space, to gain the puck. And
Wally,
these boys that were 30 to 50 pounds bigger than him.
Wally, do you know how many kids are in his family?
I don't know. I know that his dad's a lobster fisherman. I don't know if there's any others. There might be one.
Because that's always, I always found that to be the interesting thing when you have multiple kids playing hockey. And I'm not sure if it's with Tom, probably could speak more how that works with the girls. Just I haven't had that much experience that, but I know with the boys, when you get the youngest of the 2 or 3,
Yeah.
they seem to be the scrappiest because they had to survive with the older ones. in day-to-day life too.
Were you the youngest in your family, Peter?
I was the youngest boy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was the youngest of the three boys, and I have a younger sister who could do no wrong, by the way. Just say that.
Tom, where were you in your family's hierarchy?
I was the fourth kid. I was the second boy. My youngest brother's 2 years younger. It's his birthday today. So I've already phoned him and sang happy birthday to him.
There you go.
Well,
We
it's
had a
interesting.
different family. Like my older brother's 8 years older than me, and my sister 10. And then it's kind of like two families. They were born in Winnipeg and they lived in a different part of Calgary. Then we moved to the area when I was 2, and it was a totally different. Like my brother didn't play hockey, my oldest brother, and when he played football, he was a lineman. He was a big guy, and totally different. So it wasn't any influence from him. But my dad was a terrific athlete. So
Wally, what about you?
I'm the youngest of three boys. My father and mother immigrated from the Ukraine, so we're first generation Canadians, and all of us lived in a community of we grew up in a community of 1,100 people, and sports, extracurricular activities at school just fueled our lives. The classroom, we respected it and did all our things, but the stuff we did outside of school time, they just occupied us to the fullest. And interesting enough, my deceased oldest brother, who was the role model for me, it's his birthday today. He's passed away years ago. And we had a real interesting upbringing, but I was the benefactor of being the youngest. And I think everything that my brothers did before me, I sort of emulated or had a chance to learn from. And anyway, I wore all of my brothers' hand-me-down skates and hockey equipment. But, it's part of growing up in a small town in Saskatchewan. So,
well, I had when I was a little kid, I had skates when I was 5, 6 that fit good, and I outgrew them. So I got my oldest sister's skates hand me down, but she was 10 years older. So they were, she was fully grown and I was tiny. So Bobby Orr couldn't have stood up in these skates, and they were white. They were white tube skates. So I put black shoe polish on them. And then everybody was saying, well, you better be a goalie because you got weak ankles. Because, my skates with leather was just about on the ice because they were so big. And then one day my dad bought, I think for $2.50 or something at the community, got a pair of used skates for me. And all of a sudden I could skate again.
Wally, we share that European heritage there. My grandparents on my dad's side were from Poland, and my mother's were from Lithuania, and so I'm actually second generation American. So we share that Eastern European influence there.
Well, my dad came over as an 18-year-old. He escaped the Stalin purge in the Soviet Union. He worked in a coal mine in Estevan, Saskatchewan, saved enough money, went back and got married, and he had to leave my mother there. It took him about 8 months before she could take the boat to get over.
Oh.
And but basically a Ukrainian-speaking family growing up. It was sort of a period of time in Canada that Ukrainian immigrants got jobs in the railroad, and my dad had a job on the railroad, but he worked as a shoemaker with a grade 3 education in a small community in Evesham, Saskatchewan. And he eventually moved to my hometown, Wadena, and had 3 sons at the time. And as we grew up and played hockey, my father never had any interest in the game. I don't think he didn't come to any games growing up. It was the post-war era. All the soldiers who had come back from the Second World War started their hockey programs up in their communities. And I benefited from those soldiers who, were 20 years old in 1945, coming back in the post-war 50s, and they coached and got the hockey going. When my dad watched my brother play at 14, my brother was a pretty good size. He was a mesomorph, really well built. He got in a fight, and my dad was a pacifist. He didn't like hockey. He actually burnt my skates. Threw them in. We had two coal stoves, one in the shoemaker shop and one in the attached residence we lived in, and he burnt them. And he didn't want me to play hockey. But obviously, the former soldiers who were coaching teams in the community rustled up another pair of skates for me. I played behind his back, and just life went on. And it wasn't until I was 16, turning 17 in grade 12, I was playing with the senior team. They had built a new rink, and we had a grand opening. Now, this new rink, Peter, up here in Canada, population of the town's 1,100. The number of seats in the arena, bench seats, 1,100. And so we opened the rink up. I had a great game as a young player. My oldest brother was on the team along with 2 of the Magnuson boys, older brothers of Keith. It was very good hockey. And I had a great game and got a couple goals. And 2 days later, on the kitchen table, when I woke up in the morning, there was a pair of Tackaberry skates. And I don't know if you've heard of them, Peter, but they were
Yeah.
they were the top of the line skates. Like, I don't know how Dad could afford them, but I can remember his broken English saying, "Sonny, I think you're going to need better skates." And that sort of turned it around for me. I wore those same skates playing university hockey. And when I got to, they were 9.5. My shoe size was 10. And when I got to Chicago's camp, I had these 9.5 skates that I played university hockey with. And the trainer looked at me. He gave me a brand new pair of skates, size 7.5, proper width to fit me. I had to break them in during the camp, but that's just the story. Immigrant family, growing up, we were not upper class. And I can't imagine today how, the term upper middle, lower middle, I don't know where the athletes of any sport that are achieving high performance results, I would believe would have to be upper middle class at least.
Well,
I
I
don't
think,
know.
Wally, in the little towns,
What's
I
that?
think the little towns, they have a better chance than in the city
Yeah,
because you got your own rink and all that kind of stuff.
yeah. Good point. Really good point. Well, listen, guys, I've got 3 practices tonight at Ectus, Tom. Tom, I don't know if you can tape your breakout sequence tonight, but I did do some of it before. You did it a week ago, last week.
Yeah.
It was great. Like, I just Now, you
Well,
initiate,
we'll have 20 skaters tonight. I've called up 3 affiliates so we have 4 sets of 5.
Yeah.
It allows you to do so many more things, right?
now the 3 people in the neutral zone, they regroup once and then they ice the puck to forecheck.
Well, at the start, I started just the neutral zone regroup. So
Yeah.
they regroup with their D, everybody touches a puck, pass to the other D, forecheck, and then they pass to their new players. And then after 5 minutes, I have them dump it in at each end and they forecheck and and they have to they have to break out against, half resistance kind of a forecheck.
But Tom, you said your first regroup, everybody has to touch the puck. There's no checking?
No, this is just the Thomas regroup with 3. So they regroup with their own D.
Yeah.
When they get the pass, I want all of the forwards to get a pass before they
Yeah.
pass to the other one. So it's
Yeah.
kind of a, puck support drill. And then I change it to, instead of passing to the other defense and
Yeah.
forecheck, they dump the puck in and forecheck. And now it's,
Okay.
it's not a neutral zone, it's a breakout. It's
Yeah.
kind of a continuous breakout drill.
How much have you done of deliberate regroups?
Well, I think the Thomas is that's what I've done with deliberate regroups.
But with no checking.
No, I've done the Thomas and there's passive check. We just you go from pretty passive checking. So they got to find a hole and find an open player to a little more aggressive.
Yeah.
But I didn't, we do all kinds of passing drills, but.
Who do you play this weekend?
Red. Play Sean's team.
Oh boy. I don't know if I'm gonna make it. I've got a family thing. I'm looking at the schedule here for this weekend. 5:30, I won't be there. Sorry. Oh my goodness.
Well, I got that stat for the first time. They've been doing our games, but nobody's ever sent it to me. So I finally got one. We played in Edmonton on Sunday.
Yeah.
And I find it fascinating. Watch every kid shifts and all the power plays and
Yeah.
give you all those stats. I'd seen Carla McLeod showed Wally and I her Czech team in stats. I'd never worked on it myself before. It's quite the.
Yeah, we used to use something called VidSwap, and it was great because they would break down. You would tell them what you needed broken down, and they would give you everything. And you could obviously go in and fine tune and do whatever you want. But every player shift you could pull up individually. You could pull up anything you wanted to on D zone, regroups, face offs. Really a great tool because again, we always talk about how different the game looks at different angles, right? And when you watch that at an angle that you never get to see it from because you're on the bench, it's pretty eye-opening. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I always get a video done because, especially if I want to watch it right after, to prepare for the next game and this kind of stuff. So I get one done and just I got this little thing that plugs into an iPhone. And I just get them to take the shifts, and one of the parents does that. And but I really like this Instat thing. It just you don't get it right away. That's the only problem with it.
Yeah, we had so there was a league rule because we used VidSwap was what the league used, and within 12 hours, like if you played me, I'm the home team. Within 12 hours, I have to have that all set and done and downloaded for you to access. So when we're playing Friday night, Saturday afternoon, and you have time to look at it, meet with your team, maybe go over it. So it's pretty good.
Yeah, well, if I got it that quick, I wouldn't bother getting the video done. But maybe I can. I really haven't got much information about it.
Yeah, I mean it would because Instat was something we looked at it and the league just went with a different program, but they would Instat would give you that quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, you get what you pay for, right? But they would.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
Do it.
It may be available, and I don't even know because
they
finally sent it to me, who's the one that who's the one that actually needs it. I
Yeah, I have to find out who precipitated that happening, because it's a valuable service, and kudos to Girls Hockey Calgary Elite if they've done it with all teams, because Tom, you sent out your link from Edmonton.
Yeah.
And you had the players' names that you could click on, and I could view their shifts.
Yeah, well, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think all of those programs are similar, right?
Yeah. How did you get those names and shifts?
They just send it to you.
Yeah, but did you cut and paste that page of the
No,
shifts?
I think I just sent you the link to what they sent me with it on.
Okay, I thought I saw it on Deep Snap with the names on it, and I clicked on the names.
Yeah.
The way, Wally, the way it would be like when we with VidSwap was in that program, you put in your roster.
Yeah.
And then, for each game. So they break it down like that. So if you're number 7, right, it's got your number and your name, you just pull up the name or the number and it'll tell you whatever you want. It'll tell you your offensive shifts, your defensive shifts, how many shots on goal you had, anything you want.
See, all I'm interested in, I know that's available. I understand it. All I want to do is make sure the players look at their shifts.
You can do that. Most of them have the ability for you to share their shifts with them.
Okay, that's what I want to do, Tom. I want to get every player's name, which is when you click on it, all their shifts will appear. So, and when it's sent out to them, they can look at their own shifts.
Yeah.
Because right now, I can't even go into the program to find the information. I just want to get it to the player in the fastest way possible to look at their shifts. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I had the 1 hour thing done. They could all watch the game.
Yeah.
They could watch themselves.
But will they look at it, Tom? Do you know if they've taken the time?
I think a player would like to see their own shifts.
Yeah, but their own shifts,
think,
I think they might get in a game.
Well, I think they'd watch their own shifts probably a lot quicker than the whole game for sure. Because I know in the NHL, Ken Hitchcock was saying that at the end of the game, as soon as the players, they go to their car, their shifts are on their iPad.
Yeah.
Some players want to watch their own shifts.
Back in the late 70s, early 80s, I was working with Dave King and the national team. And this was the VHS days. And I had 5 VHS cameras, 5 of my high school students recording the lines. And 2 of them did special teams. And the VHS, they had these little portable TVs sitting in front of the stationary bikes. They could plug each line had their VHS tape with their shifts only in them and a special teams tape. And the players rode the bikes and looked at them back in the 80s. So it was a real valuable tool. I just haven't figured out how to get it on to the players like bingo. Go home.
Yeah, I'll figure that out.
Yeah, keep me posted, because I think the goal would be to get every team to be able to get that to every player to look at. Just what do they learn from their shift? And they're going to study themselves. That's the big thing. Well, look, guys, we're at 1:59, 9, 10, 11 seconds. Pretty good. We did 2 hours tonight. I didn't know. But next week, I'm going to make a concerted effort to get Al Andrews on. And I guess the conversation would be young athletes and their families and how they became who they became, given these three young people and the path they followed and what separated them as young people to become the tremendous young men and athletes that they were. Crosby, McKinnon, and I don't want to jeopardize Thomas McVie. I've thrown his same name into the hat, the same hat of those three players. So just because they were in Alan Andrews hockey growth program. So, okay, everybody.
All right,
Sayonara.
well, you
All
guys.
right. Enjoy the week. Enjoy the week, gentlemen. Have a good weekend.
Okay, take care.
Yeah. All right.
Bye-bye.
My cat's sick of me not paying attention to him, so he's walking around.
Yeah, I see that. Mine, is he on your desk?
Yeah, he's standing right in front of the screen, and now he's standing in front of the whatever. So
How old's your cat?
he's only just over a year. He's we got him because we were starting to get mice because we feed the birds all the time, and there's bird seed around. But
Yeah.
my dog does not want him in the house.
Yeah.
So we got to keep him separated, which is really too bad because he's a really social little guy.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Well, Tom, when you were coaching Heatley, how young did you start working with him?
Well, he would just come to all my camps, everything. So probably, I don't know. Probably, well, you know what? When I think about it, I was there the first time he ever stepped on the ice. I was coaching Sate, and Murray had got back in '85 from Germany, right? He was player of the year a few times there.
Yeah.
And he was my assistant coach.
Yeah.
So he bought Danny some hockey gear.
Yeah.
And he brought him on the ice. So Danny stepped on the ice at Sate there. He fell. He sat there crying, saying, "I don't want to play hockey." That was the first time. So I guess since he very started,
Yeah.
he went to the hockey school, and he came to he just called me all the time to get ice. He just wanted to play. He loves to play.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So I guess whatever. And I never coached him on a team. I always did summer camps and all that kind of stuff, and I'd let him come for free.
You know, I'm watching your young players and all the other teams' young players at practice.
Yeah.
They love playing. They love being at practice. Like, I'm quite amazed at their level of commitment in practice and their work ethic and their effort. But your group, they love to play. Like
Yeah.
they get
I think
jacked
a lot
up.
of that's got to do with how Jim picked the team. You know,
Yeah.
he had a lot more to do with me. Him and the girls really did most of the choosing, and
Yeah.
that's what they look for is how hard they competed and how well they skated.
Yeah.
And it was kind of you see people that compete hard, it kind of shows that they love to play, right?
Yeah.
Because it was they really do compete hard.
Yeah. Well, I wish I could make your game, but my granddaughter's in town Saturday. We're having a sushi supper that night.
Yeah.
So it's family time for me, but I'm sure I'll get to see you play many more times. So,
Oh yeah.
Tom, all the best and
And you, Wally?
take care, buddy.
Okay. Talk to you later. Just
Okay,
finish
bye-bye.
my practice plan here.